Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Lovely Picture from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. It says, am I the arsehole here for marrying my brother's ex-wife and considering adopting his child after he abandoned both of them? I, 28 male, have been dating my brother's ex-wife, 30 female, for the past 3 years. My brother married his ex-wife 8 years ago. After she got pregnant, he didn't want the child and forced her to abort. She didn't want to, so he just divorced her in just 1 year and gave up all his rights. My then sister-in-law was devastated. She was a single mother. My brother does pay alimony and child support, and we are all childhood friends and lived in the same neighborhood. I don't know what she saw in him that she married him so early. My brother is a piece of shit. He bullied me as well. He's a golden child after all. So I supported my sister-in-law and friend throughout her pregnancy and helped my nephew as well. He never saw his father because piece of shit never met him. So 3 years ago, we started dating. We never told any of our family members and I moved in with her. We avoided telling anyone to not create any problem. So a week ago, my brother came at his ex's place and he was shocked to see me and asked me what I'm doing here. And we had no choice but to tell him the truth. He was very mad at me and he hit me and screaming at me, how could I do this to him? After a bit of a fight, he said he came here to reconnect with his ex and become a part of his child's life. And he didn't know that I was a scumbag enough to do this to him. My now girlfriend threatened him to leave, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. He screamed at both of us and called us lovely names. In the end, we both threatened to call the cops if he doesn't leave, so he finally left. Now, all my family members, mum, dad, grandparents are saying that I shouldn't have such a relationship with my brother's ex, and I'm scum, and that they are ashamed of me. I should break up with her so my brother can be with his wife and child, and I'm an obstacle. I said to them that we were gonna tell them soon. I'm planning to get married this year or early in 25. And they called me names and threatened to cut contact and won't attend the wedding. My girlfriend is saying to not mind them and we'll get married even if it's just the two of us, and to report my brother for what he did. So am I the arsehole for doing this? In the comments, Devoted Red says not the arsehole and there's no reason to wait until they cut you off. Go no contact with them now. You already know you can't trust them with the most important aspects of your life, so they're not worth any effort or consideration. Opie says, I just thought I'd be able to keep my relationship with my family. That's why I didn't go no contact or reported my brother. Global Fact says, not the arsehole here. Do what you want in that regard, but in order to adopt the child, your brother will have to legally sign away his parental rights. Opie says, he did it years ago. He probably hoped he'd be able to avoid child support. He couldn't. He pays alimony and child support but is mad at me for doing what I did. No Thanks 9802 says, so you help and support the woman and child your brother abandoned, but you're the scum. Yeah, it's time to go low contact or no contact with every family member that thinks this. Also, what the fuck is your brother thinking? Coming back after all this time, ignoring his responsibilities and having his fun and think things are just going to go back to the same. Yeah, you can tell he was the golden child and can do no wrong. Not the arsehole. Opie says no, I'm not a scum for helping her and her kid. They knew about it. I'm a scumbag because I'm in a relationship with her and adopting her kid, which I shouldn't have done in their words. She is not just my brother's ex, she's also my childhood friend and I fell for her, and we did what we did, and now they are angry at us now. Seaguy203 says, you mentioned your brother was the golden child, so that should have been a clear indication already that your family wouldn't have your back whatsoever. Please report your brother and make sure your nephew isn't anywhere near him. Opie says, well, yeah, but I was just hoping that there would be a way for us to maintain a relation of son and grandson, even if he was golden child. They shouldn't break their relationship with their son and grandson. That's what I believe at least. If there's no way to get this, I'll just cut them off myself. No Thanks replies saying it's a bummer that your family thinks that. They don't have their priorities straight. They are in fact the arseholes. I would listen to your girlfriend and continue with what you are doing and get married, even if it's only you, her, and your son. I wish all three of you the best. Opie says, oh yeah, we're getting married no matter what. I was just trying to save my relationship with my parents, that's all. The Crown and Anchor says, if you were assaulted, press charges. As for your family, you had to know they were going to disown you over this decision, so just move on without them. Beyond that, have your girlfriend's lawyer send your brother a letter explaining that he gave up his parental rights and that he has no legal right to be in his child's life. He'll probably petition the courts to end child support and alimony, so just be prepared for that. Opie says, oh, I should have mentioned this. Where I'm from and the laws I know about after consulting, if I marry her, he won't need to pay alimony and child support if I adopt my nephew. So my girlfriend came up with a devious plan that will hold on to adopting and make him pay child support and other necessary funds which is required in future and fight for it for what he did to her and what he did to me. But I think of just letting it all go when we cut them all off if there's no other way and move on with our life. Roadkill for Snack says, did your brother change his mind or has your parents been trying to persuade him to reconnect with his son? Opie says, I don't know anything about this. He just showed up at my girlfriend's place, was shocked to see me and beat me and left after screaming, and we are discussing what we should do next, which is why I'm here asking for an opinion. Dick OK says, not the arsehole and cut your whole family out. Adopt the child and make sure to tell him the truth when he's older. Opie says, I was just hoping that I might be able to retain at least some kind of relationship with my parents. That's why I didn't block and try to talk to them all the time and tell them what I feel. If it doesn't work, I'd just cut them off because I would have no other choice. Do I think it was a good idea to get with your brother's ex to begin with? No, it just sounds like it's a setup for an incredibly messy situation, but like I always say, relationships and stuff are very complicated, very difficult. I'm reading a very small part of someone's life. This guy decided to walk out and abandon his kid, abandon his wife just like that. So for you to step in and be supportive and build a relationship with this person, can I be mad at that as well? No, I don't think I can. I can't be mad at that at the same time. But I think it was always going to create a messy situation down the road with your family or someone who's going to see it in a certain way. I think you always have to have in your mind that this is going to create a no contact situation or a low contact situation. I don't think everyone was always going to accept it, especially when we're talking about golden children and all that kind of thing. Messy, messy, messy. But Opie did come in with an update, which said, first off, thanks to all the majority of people for their support and kind opinions. There are also some who are threatening me saying if it were them, I'd be 2 feet under, or there are some people I shouldn't mess with, or I shouldn't put my hands on someone's wife or blood. Bro, he did that himself. He abandoned both of them, and before she's my brother's ex-wife, she's my best friend. Coming back to the update, there's nothing much to say. Yesterday we sat down and called my family and talked to clear things up. It was my girlfriend who talked to them and she said, even if we both don't get married, there is no chance that she will be with him or allow him to meet her kid no matter what. And it isn't up to him to decide for her what she can and she can't do. My family and brother all started convincing her to give my brother a chance and to be a dad and husband, and after a lot of yapping, my wife said no. She already found another man and there isn't much he can do to stop her. Then my brother started threatening me because he knew I was listening. I didn't even say much. He said I went too far and said nasty things. My wife cut him off and said never contact any of us. So now we have decided that we're going to file a complaint in the morning and move somewhere else, near her parents or at her parents. If I marry her, he won't need to pay alimony, but he will be required to pay child support unless I adopt him. So we decided to forget about money and going with marriage and adoption. We don't care about vengeance or money. We just want to live our life in peace and without any drama. And I'll never talk to my family or have any contact with them, even if I or any of them die, because fuck them. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story, which comes from the True Off My Chest subreddit from Positive Pi 8562 and says getting engaged has ruined my relationship. My partner and I have been together for nearly 6 years. He's honestly been the most amazing, wonderful, and supportive person in my life. He doesn't just make me happier, he makes me healthier. He's been absolutely fantastic in every way imaginable. About 2 years ago, we had the big marriage talk. We were both honest about what we wanted. He admitted that getting married made him so nervous. He has literally never seen a successful marriage. Every marriage he's ever witnessed has either ended in disastrous divorce or very sad premature death. I said I would stay with him whatever he chose, but there are some things I wouldn't do unless we were married. Just as he's seen too many marriages fail, I've seen too many loved ones abandoned by men once kids come along, or when he finds a better option. In other words, as long as we weren't married, no kids and our finances remained strictly untangled from each other. He proposed to me a few months after that, and since then, he's turned into an absolute nightmare. First, he refuses to do anything wedding related, but accuses me of taking over and being a bridezilla when I make decisions without him. He does things behind my back, like inviting our friend, who has 4 kids, to bring the children when we agreed the only exception to the no kids rule would be my niece, who will be 3 months old and for obvious reasons can't be separated from my sister for the weekend. I can swallow that frustration, but he's also become hypercritical. Any mess around the house, even if he made it, if I haven't cleaned it up by the time he gets home, he refuses to talk to me. I work from home, so I usually do a lot of the chores like the dishwasher in my lunch break, but sometimes I don't have time. This is a busy time of year, and while my job is usually constrained to the 9 to 5, in the last few weeks I've had to work until 8 or 9. When he stormed in last night angry that he had to clean the kitchen, and I pointed out I've been working for 12 hours straight, he looked me in the eyes and said, "So?" He's threatened to throw me out the house and call off the engagement 4 times. He stopped initiating sex. I've come to dread the sound of the door unlocking because he can't go 5 minutes without finding a problem to have with me. It's so bad that my mother, who was ready to adopt him a year ago, is refusing to be the witness that signs our marriage certificate. I've asked to call off the wedding, go back to being just girlfriend and boyfriend, but he says he really does want to get married and he's just doing all of this to make sure he's making the right choice. Increasingly though, all he's done is convince me I'm making the wrong one. Edit to add. If it wasn't clear, I'd already decided not to marry him when I made this post. I'm packing up and going to my mum's for now. I'm safe and don't need anyone to call the cops. Thanks to the person who offered though. We've seen this many times in stories when we go from like boyfriend, girlfriend to engagement or marriage, how the behavior can change. And for me, and I know it always sounds harsh when I say this kind of thing, I'm glad it's happened now than before they've actually got tied together by marriage. And I'm not suggesting OP to do this, but I always want to know what's going through that person's mind. Why do they think what they're doing is a good idea? What is their end game in this situation? I mean, it doesn't matter for OP now. It sounds like they're out of there. They've checked out. This is done. But Shame the Devil says he's abusive. He was always going to be abusive once he felt he'd locked you down. This is who he is. You can't stay with him because of who he used to be, because he isn't that person anymore. He will likely never be that person again. OP says it's really hard to believe he was trying to lock me down. If anything, I had to kind of convince him to propose. But yeah, I'm not planning to marry this man anymore. Another commenter says, wow, it's just like he's punishing you for putting him in a position to marry you, because otherwise he wouldn't get certain things he wants. If not consciously, then subconsciously, he really doesn't want to be with you long term, and the purpose of his behavior is to make you leave him. I wonder how it is possible that he was perfect for a whole 6 years. There's just no way he was. OP says, I mean, no one is perfect, but he was really someone I wanted to spend my life with. He used to make me feel so safe and warm. He used to do things like when we stayed in hotels, he'd always take the side of the bed nearest the door, and he'd come with me on my old morning commute because he knew I didn't like taking trains, even though it added 30 minutes to his commute. He makes me laugh like no tomorrow. He once sent me to the doctors after I laughed so hard I pulled a muscle. He's smart and really quick-witted. I never laughed like I do with him. He'd do little things like coming home with a teddy bear just because it reminded him of the teddy my grandpa gave my mum when she was a kid, that he once saw in a photo, and he'd do big things like months painstakingly teaching me how to drive. And it was painful. Or driving 8 hours across the country and spending 3 days in quarantine just to see me at Christmas when I had to temporarily move in with my grandpa during COVID. When I changed meds and gained an alarming amount of weight, he woke up an hour before he needed to and worked out with me every morning for a year. I always struggled with a cold shoulder during arguments, which he always told me was him cooling off so the argument didn't escalate. But we had so few and they'd last maybe a couple of hours. Lately he can go 3 days only saying a single word responses to me. Calligrapher Away says, do you think he wants to marry because you said you won't combine finances until then? Opie says, I don't think so. I've thought a lot about that. At the time he proposed, we knew his grandma was going to pass away soon. We were renting the house next door to her, and while we knew he'd inherit the house we were living in, the two houses had slowly merged gardens in the 10 years he and his grandma had been living next to each other. The two houses had been in the family since the 30s, so he was quite keen on buying next door to both avoid losing it, the family member who inherited it couldn't afford to keep it, but also because having a stranger live there would have been a huge privacy issue for both houses. We'd hope to rent it to a friend or another family member. He does earn a lot more than me, but he's self-employed, so the banks are quite wary of loaning to him. I work in a university which the banks consider a safe professional job, so getting credit and loans would have been much easier if he'd been married to me. Thinking back on it, I wonder if he'd asked me not because it was something he wanted per se, but just something that made sense. We'd been together for a while, so it made sense to keep moving forward. It made financial sense and his family liked me. I'm not a perfect partner or person, but weighing it all up, marrying me had lots of factual advantages for him. I even have dual American citizenship and had always dreamed of moving to America one day. So OP came in to update their post and said, sorry for the wait folks, I've had a lot to do. This has honestly been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I'm back in with my parents, which is awful. I hate it. I feel like a teenager again. They're being very supportive and I'm grateful I had somewhere to go, but the house is so damn loud and I forgot what it was like. I'm trying to find an affordable apartment, but it's London, so that feels like a bit of a pipe dream. To top it all off, cancelling a wedding a month before is expensive. Only the celebrant and the photographer have accepted refunds. Every other vendor has been paid in full. That's money just flushed down the toilet. It's been exhausting. Before this, I was in a pretty great financial situation. I had savings and a plan and a house and a financially stable partner. Now I have less than 1/10 of my savings, nowhere to live and no real prospect for the future. It's not easy processing losing him, not easy at all. I'm still in the part where everything makes me cry and you feel like someone has taken scissors to your soul, but I've experienced both grief and breakups. I know this feeling will eventually fade, even if it might never completely disappear. When it's mixed in with a relief of being able to exist without criticism every 5 minutes, I'm hopeful it will pass sooner rather than later. But I have no experience for this kind of existential fear of being alone. Not having the family I've wanted for so long, not knowing what's next, actually trying to date someone. When I was little, I never knew what I wanted from my career other than I had one, but I always knew I wanted to be a mum. That dream feels like it's getting further and further away every day. I have no experience for this burning embarrassment of telling everyone in your life that the wedding they were invited to isn't happening. It was so painful telling his niece and nephew I wasn't going to be seeing them again. They cried and clung to me and begged me not to go, and they ripped my heart out. It's easy on Reddit to tell someone to end things, but when you've built a life together, disentangling it is so bloody difficult. A divorce would be easier because then we'd have a legal framework for all of this. Instead, I have to decide if I want to take him to court for the custody of my cat when I don't have a proper place to house her, but she's my cat. You might have noticed I've avoided really talking about my ex. We're communicating through our parents. He tried to reach out several times, but if I talk to him, I know I will do what I always do. I will buckle and take him back because I love him very, very much. I've been in therapy. Again, courtesy of my parents. My therapist has to keep reminding me to love myself more than I love him. I miss him anyway. He's promised to change, promised couples counseling, promised he knows he was wrong, but he also hasn't said the word sorry yet. Such a small word, and yet so telling. He's been generally pretty accommodating to me. Expenses have been split 50-50, which is fair, but certainly a worse deal for me. He left the house so I could gather my things in peace. I can tell from the state of it, this has hit him hard. The cats have been the only sticking point, and I understand why. The house is old and creaks, but there alone isn't fun. Neither of us liked it when we were alone, and a large part of the reason we got cats for the company at night when the other was away. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you wanted to hear. My mind is all over the place. Special Lychee 6847 says, if the wedding date hasn't passed yet and you can get your reservations back, just try to offer it to someone else. Even if you offer it for half the price you paid, you'll still be getting some of your money back. You never know if someone is looking for a venue, catering, etc. on short notice. It doesn't even have to be for a wedding. Someone could be having renewal of vows, 50-year anniversary, celebrating their retirement, christening, whatever. Anyone wanting to have a celebration on short notice could potentially reimburse your money for you. Post in local Facebook groups, church, wherever people that could want to buy your party can find it. However down you are feeling now, it's still better than being trapped in a marriage that's not healthy. OP replied saying, unfortunately not. Since COVID, wedding venues and vendors are aware of that and word their contracts to make sure resale is not possible so they can sell their services at half price in addition to keeping the original payment. It's incredibly sad for OP, that update, and my heart absolutely goes out to her. You know, they've been together for 6 years and the love just doesn't disappear in an instant like that. It's going to take time. It's going to take grieving of their relationship, etc. Which I truly feel for her. And, you know, the money lost as well. Things look pretty bleak around her at the moment. I truly hope that one day we're going to see an update from her that things have got better for her, that once this grey cloud has lifted and she sees through the fog, etc., that her life has got better, because the alternative to this was her getting married and sticking in this what sounded like a really unhealthy relationship in the way that it was going. And that was no way to live at the same time. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, you bloody cheeky so-and-sos, I just want to say a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, showing your love not just towards me, but towards one another in the comments, to the OPs in the stories, and to other commenters in the stories at the same time. It really does mean the world to me to see, you know, a bit of positivity in what can be a dark world sometimes. Thank you so, so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Keep being awesome. Much love.